Okay, here we go. Another project. This is a cogen set. It's homemade using a truck alternator. That's almost 1,000 watts, 12 volt system. I've used it for years, for the last 15 years, to bank up the battery bank because I'm off grid. And what I want to do is get this so it can automatically turn on. So I have to remove this cover and put a new flywheel that has gear teeth on it so it can run a starter. And in Amazon I found a kit that wasn't that expensive. It was like 80 bucks to electrify this. And then for a little over 300 there's a electronic device thing that you can program to get this to turn on when the battery bank goes to a certain level, and then it'll automatically turn on. And the choke thing here, that snapped off. I got a new piece coming. I have to have a linear actuator and figure out the throw length of this here, so that automatically with that electronic device will put the choke on to get this to start, and then automatically take the choke off. So that's the project. This is the beginning, and here my wife's working on Huka Lake Ghost Fun Park Rentals sign right here. So that's our retirement business. It'll give us our money to survive. So she's making some signs up. Are you having fun?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good. I'm not. Okay, to get this thing apart. Okay, to get this thing apart here. There's on this thing here, this GX cover here, there's only 3 bolts that hold that. Right, there, and there. Even though you have all those other holes, it's only those 3 that hold it. And then on this thing here, there's like 4 bolts. So on this one up in here like this, got a bolt there, there at the bottom, and over there. This electric wire for the stop, run and stop is, I just left connected. I don't know what's going to happen with that. So it's not a whole lot of bolts to that point. Am I right there? And they all align. I couldn't get it using these. Oop. I tried to pull it with that. It was on there too much. So I got my puller out. My wife helped some money, but I guess she didn't want to make money at that point. Now, this thing here, thank God I got these parts before the Trump tariffs kicked in. You know, because everything just keeps going up as the tariffs kick in. So I bought all these parts before, and you know, the tariffs would be a great idea, but if you look at the history of the United States, when they put a tariff on, the government would also back those industries, those fledgling little industries, and they would give them seed money to get going. So you have to do both. If all you do is put tariffs on, all it's going to do is cost us people, consumers, more money, because we pay for it, and then our government gets the money for that tariff. But so you got to do both. You've got to help the industries get going, and our problem is that when you don't have universal health care, well, all the corporations, they have to tag that on to give health care for certain, you know, to their employees, enough the places that do get it. So that drives cost up, and our cost of housing is too damn high because all these hedge funds had bought all the houses up after 2008, and now they, you know, there isn't enough rentals out there. There are not enough houses out there. They make sure of that. So you got to drive the cost of housing down. You have to get the price of food down. You got to get the government to cover insurance, and then you can compete. with these other countries like China and stuff. If you don't have that, then how do you compete when they have their wages so low? So this tariff thing, if they don't do it right, all it's going to do is end up costing all of us money, and you're not going to see in time any real industries form from it, because you have to do both. Okay. Now, I use seafoam. See, I use this seafoam motor treatment, and I ended up taking this cover off right here. Take the air filter out of the way, and then with the engine running, you just pour a little bit of that stuff in there. Bunch of white smoke will come out, and I did it over and over and over again. This motor is 15 years old. This is why I really believe in Honda motors. I've used this for 15 years straight. Now it's like, if you look at the valves in there, you can just see that they're, you know, I'm not a mechanic, but they look like they're kind of dirty. I mean, I used the seafoam on it, but it didn't really clean that up. I don't know if the seafoam gets to that part of it that much, but anyways, I'm doing the valve adjustment on it. I never did the valve adjustment on this thing. I'm not a mechanic, but I do general contracting. I like putting nails and putting screws in boards and doing roofs and concrete and electrical, plumbing, all that stuff. That's what I'm used to doing 45 years. All right, so what I'm thinking is, right now I got this cover off. It's just 4 bolts to get into the valve, but it gives me more clearance to try to put a new coil in. So next move, I take these little bolts off here and I put a new coil in its place. Now that I got it open, I'm replacing stuff while I got a chance to. It isn't that expensive for these components, for these Honda components. So okay, this is a little bit tricky, taking this coil off, because this is so big on here, the spark plug end thing. I couldn't get it to go through there, so the only way you could get that is I had to loosen these 2 bolts. Let's see where we're at. Right here on the carburetor. Take those nuts off. Then I had to take, let's see. This is hard with this damn fucking camera. Oh yeah, it's not a big camera, it's not small, it doesn't fit. And then let's see. Right there, you see, right there, I had to take that little bolt out. And I had to take this bolt out right here. Where is it? Right there. That little bolt out. Just to get enough slop on this to be able to fit that big head of that through. Then I had to thread that coming off the coil, that other little dinky wire. And that came around. The other dinky wire came over, down, and then went into here. Here's the old one. See, that little wire. And there's the thing. And this has like a heat resistant thing on here, on this little part of the wire. And that has like a plastic one that must be heat resistant. But I have these tightened down just a little bit out of the way, so when I put that in, I don't smack into it. And then I'll bring that in and put a little business card in there to get the gap. Okay, I'll put that hose over on that part, tighten those 4 bolts up. I cleaned up the gasket in both the surface metal and the other one, and then retightened that up. 4 bolts that are 10 millimeter. Just don't over tighten on this aluminum block. You can mess things up in a hurry. Now I'm going to put the new spark plug in. I won't over tighten that. And okay, now bolted the starter on. There's absolutely no instructions with the kit. I hate when they're like that. And so I put it into this bolt and that bolt. This bolt here the threads weren't cut, so I just pushed gently and turned the wrench, and it cut its own into the aluminum engine body, you know, I don't know what they call that, but, and now I have to see, this tin went here, there's the old tin, the old tin that came off. There's still stuff connected to it. I'll leave it there for now. This new piece goes here, from there to there, and there's another little piece here, and it just says S on it. I have no idea where that goes. Like I say, I hate when they don't have stuff on there. And these three, this thing either goes this way or this way, I believe. Either there or there. There or there. These aren't cut either with threads, so I'll have to shove and cut my own threads with steel bolt. So, all right. Now with this thing here, you got to make sure with this white part here, on here, that those on the, where that keyway goes, and this keyway goes, that's pointing the same thing. And so this one it is, right there, the keyway is pointing into there, so this whole unit is on the right side, so that's important. This thing can go here or it can go here. I'm going to put it here so the wire can reach, and the wire is going to go through that little hole right there. But before that, these weren't cut. So to cut a bolt, take your bolt from the kit and get it straight in, as straight as you can, and then put pressure on it. Oh. And I'm putting a good amount of pressure, pushing in. Yeah, motor's moving on me. I'm gonna have to see, I'm putting pressure on it still. I'm cutting threads. It's there. Okay. Now I'll back it out. And I use anti-seize on all my bolts that are going in. So that's this anti-seize, in case I have to get into them some down the road. Put a little on that, a little dab on here, a little dab will do ya. And this little wire, you run through that little hole there. See now. I don't want that to rub on to that thing. Probably it's tucking it that way. There's that one and the other bolt. And what this coil does is it charges your battery up. Some people put more than one. They'll put another one of these up here too. That'll give you twice as much charging capacity. But with this cheap kit, they only give you one. Nice and gentle, back and forth. Rocking my baby back home. Now don't overdo it. There's still some slop there. A little bit of slop. Since you cut your own thread, you don't want to overdo this, especially. Okay, that's that. Now hit the red button. Okay, right here, I cut a little piece of wood on an angle and kind of tapped it in there. And with that, I put the nut on for the whole flywheel or starter assembly. And that's 55 foot-pounds or 75 Nm if it's metric. Newton meters or something. And so I just went 55 with my little wrench here. You just don't want to underdo it or overdo it on these. And now get this out of the way. And the only way you can get this whole unit on there is you have to take this off because it won't clear because of the teeth. Now I'm gonna put that back on the coil. Now I'm putting this.
Wait a second, it just started. Go ahead.
What I have is my hand right in the center here, and let me get a little snugger. I'm putting the coil, and I saw a video of a guy said that you can just use a regular business card. So I've got that in my hand, 3 fingers on it, so I have even pressure on the lower and the upper part. And not too tight because it's all aluminum. Now let's see, I pull this out. That should be the gap right there. Pull that out and then just see how this does. Okay, we're to that point. Okay, this little part you can see fits into that little arrangement, so it's the only place it fit. Where'd it go?
Why doesn't it fit in there?
It was fitting.
Okay, there.
There, until you can, and then this has a little catch on right there, and that goes into, you'll feel it seat.
There it went in.
Okay, now put this nut on. Okay, and then now I tightened to 55, I think, foot-pounds, I believe.
Yep, wherever that certain is 55.
And that use this little wedge here to go on that side. I tap a little bit.
Maybe when it gets around to that little notch out.
Let me get my glasses on.
Keeps moving.
That worked yesterday. Oops, that little wire is going to get squished. $55. Oh, damn it. Almost. Ah, shit.
I think it's there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep, there, 55, okay. Okay, next I put this piece on. Right there. Now this piece, like the old one, doesn't have the part for the starter right there. So this new one with the kit luckily has that. That goes right in there, boom. And then these 4 bolts. Boom, boom, and boom. So. Okay, now I put this part on, the pull thing, and you know, you can kind of hit there or depending on where you like. I'm going to put it probably at a certain position, but anyways, you bolt that on there. I'll probably go about right there. 3 bolts. Okay, I took the old tin off. I took this stuff off here. I think that's the low oil shut off. And here's the switch, and I'm not sure as of this point what that switch situation is going to be. So I'm just leaving it there. And now I'm going to bolt this here. Goes into that bolt hole, and then in the kit they have a bolt that goes on there. So that's the next move. Okay, these little wires that are under these little stuff here that I've got the light shining on. Well, let me use something to point. See these little, like a governor wire and this other wire right in there. Make sure that when you put the tin, you don't trap one of those. At first I had that and it was behind it, and I didn't know it. So you can catch those behind that. You have to make sure these 2 wire assembly things are in front of that whole tin unit. So there, I drew a sketch. And on the sketch, you see wire colors and where the things go, where all the wires go. This is the charging coil down here on the sketch. This is the starter. Over here is the ignition coil wire number 4. If this guy's right, the brown wire, which is a male, goes, which he calls 3A, goes to the number 2 charging coil. And then if you look here, what he calls 3B is a wire coming out. It's a male and it has a female. It's the only one that has 2 things on it. The one goes to the wire coming from the top of the engine that goes to the coil. That goes to the male. And then the female goes to the black wire coming off the low oil sensor. Then you go to 3D. He just calls 3D. That's a red wire with a heat shield on it. And you go to the copper thread-on part of the starter. In other words, the solenoid, the positive pole. The green and yellow are simple. Those are the ground to the engine. And then the final, this black and white wire with a heat shield on it. That goes to the number 1 on the starter. And that's like, if you look over here, there's a little wire coming off the starter. Now that guy said his was red. Mine isn't red. It's a different color, but there's only 1 wire coming off the starter. And it's a male, so that to this female over here. And I forgot to tell you what color this is. Let's see. You call 3B. It's black, but then it has a little yellow tail on it. The yellow tail is female. The yellow tail goes to the black wire coming off the low oil sensor. The black wire that goes straight through with the male goes to the wire that's coming to your coil. And it comes from the top of the engine. And that goes to that. Okay, here you can see I ground there so that I can put this yellow and green wire as a ground right to there. Okay, the wiring. This one here from the one guy's video. This is the one that worked. And which I showed a close-up of, but I'll hold here. Okay, so what happened is, on this, the brown was matched the brown coming out of there, and that's the charging coil. See the brown on this matches the brown coming up from your charging coil. Alright, then now I'll go to this one next. This is a black and white, and it went to the black and white coming right out of the solenoid. Alright, the red went right up to the positive pole on the solenoid. Alright, and then this here, when you eliminate this switch, you ended up taking the black wire coming out of the low oil sensor, and that went into the yellow wire coming down from this unit. Alright, and the positive side of it coming from here, which is a black wire. The black wire, when I yanked this whole thing out here, that formally fit, let's see, well, that was formally up in here coming from the coil. Alright, so I pulled this part loose here, and that's what this black, where'd it go? Whole thing goes into right here. You see, because that's black coming from here, and that's the coil. So by doing this, you're eliminating your switch, because you have your switch on your unit. Okay, so like I say, you just take off the low battery cutoff, only don't remove the other yellow wire, only remove the black, and go to where this coming from here, this thing has a double wire system. It's like 2 heads on it. I took the yellow over to the black on the low engine cutoff, and then I squished that up in that connects the black coming from the coil and right to the black here. So in that sense, the black was to black, you know, too. Okay, that's going to save you a lot of grief. Now I have to mount this somewhere safe. I'll probably put a little screw right into the wood there. And that was a lot of hell for me to try to figure that out. And so that'll save you a lot of grief. Okay, here we are, and I got the cover on. Before I put this on and everything, I try to spin the motor and make sure those fins, those little air fins, don't hit on the metal. Some people say that sometimes that hits, and you have to grind those little fins down a little bit so they clear the metal. And also I spun the motor when I did the valve clearance too, to make sure that was right. And before I put this on, I just by hand I spun it and everything was good. So what I did is I put a positive here to, a positive on there, and then I put the negative over here down in there, right down to the bottom of the engine. And so now let's just see whether I know what I'm doing or whether I'm completely nuts. Okay.
Woohoo! He knows what he's doing.
Putting one of these drain extenders out here so that when I drain the oil, it doesn't just come down the side there and get all oily on the plate. So I'm going to put this in here, and then I'm going to put the seafoam. If it works out and does the voltage adjustment, then I'm going to run the seafoam for a part of a gas tank, about half, about 1 ounce of that into my oil. I drain a little oil out and put that in. Let that clean the engine out. I already poured that in the carburetor and did it from that end, but I want to get inside the engine. This engine's 15 years old and it has a lot of hours of use on it. If I was to guess, it's 500 hours at least on this thing. But it's running still good. Good old Honda. Like, you want to button up the wires. I ended up using the same clamp that came with the rig and tightened all the wires up so that they're secure.